Hi, good day. So this is a video response to Rich from the Pagan perspective on his video about Aleister Crowley. Now, I felt I had to make this video response because just advising people about Crowley from what you have read on Wikipedia, then the information can get a bit thin. Now, there are several issues I want to address. The first of them is the idea that Crowley was pagan. Now, of course, if you want to stretch the definition pagan relatively far, you can say he was, because part of his practice he took from, quite a bit of it actually, took from ancient Egypt. He took inspiration from a lot of older religions, and as such you could say that he was pagan. However, Crowley was recognized himself as a ritual magician, a ceremonial magician, and that is also how I see him. I do not see him as a pagan practitioner, but as a ritualist, a ceremonial magician. Now, when it comes to human sacrifice, yes, Crowley did write about human sacrifice. However, you have to have some experience with his work to grasp what he means. Now, a lot of it is symbolic, because when you read Crowley's books, they are often not that easy to understand. They are written in an older tradition of writing occult literature, where you are expected to have had a teacher who then have taught you the symbol language of your particular path. He was also extremely inspired by famous ritual magician known as Eliphas Levi, to the point where he thought he was Levi's reincarnation. So, yeah, there's a lot of symbol language in there. Yes, he does have text on human sacrifice, but for the most part what he means is this sacrifice in symbolism. For example, often in classical occult literature, saying that you are going to sacrifice a man to use his essence, it means he's going to have an orgasm and you are going to use the sperm. It's like that old song, which goes something like to touch, to love, to kiss, to hold, to die with you again in the sweetest harmony. What is meant thereby to die again is to have an orgasm with you again, because to die was often a synonym for have an orgasm. So, and as you said, which is correct, Crowley were into sex magic and he were into tantra magic. So it wasn't the core basis of his system. Now, did he also mean something about a bit more directly about his writings on human sacrifice? No, and he definitely didn't do it. There is absolutely no indication or proof that Crowley performed or approved of human sacrifice. But I think it's also quite possible he wrote that to shock people, because a lot of what Crowley did was to shock people. For example, he liked to call himself the Beast 666. Now, many have taken that to mean that Crowley was a Satanist, but he wasn't. Crowley didn't worship Satan. He didn't worship anything. He worked with various forces, he respected them, but he weren't much of a follower. However, he felt that using that name, he could shock people. And it's very much the same with his ideas on writing about human sacrifice. it shocks people. In ritual magic, there is important ritual which is called there are two sets of rituals, but the one in question here is the slaying of a pet. And what it's about is that you do something so shocking to your former worldview that you can never return to it. Let's say you have grown up in a strictly Christian home, told that sex is sin your entire life, so you decide you will do the slaying of a pet ritual, and you go and you attend an orgy. So yeah, a lot of what Crowley did was for shock factor. Excuse me. Now, as for him being a drug user, yes, he was. However, in and of itself, I don't have a problem with drug use in magic. It is a huge history. For that, not of course, for legal reasons, I do not advocate any form of illegal substances used for ritual, but historically, shamans, village healers, all used intoxicants. There's nothing wrong in and of itself in using intoxicants for magic. However, did Crowley go over the point where it was no longer a tool and it became an addiction? Yeah, probably. And you can see in his later writings that he's becoming more and more, what shall we say, unstable? Don't know if that's the right word. Apparently that drug use did affect him. And so yeah. Now, was Crowley a nice man? I didn't know him, so I can't really say. What I will say is that he did have qualities I definitely would consider negative. He was very much selfish, even to the point of putting loved ones in danger. For example, he at one point took his wife and newborn daughter on a spiritual journey around China. Now, this journey was important for him, but his wife had just given birth, and as a result the baby died. And I wouldn't consider that very nice. He was womanizing. He had, I won't necessarily say a negative view on women, but he had very distinct gender roles. And he definitely did not view women as equal, though he at times would put female energies up on a pedestal and see them as even greater. He always saw that in a woman and her energies as her value being a part of what he could use her for. Now, would studying Aleister Crowley be of a benefit to a pagan? Well, that depends on what sort of pagan are you. Now, to study the history of, for example, Wicca, yes, I would definitely say so, because Crowley was very much a part of the environment that inspired Gareth Gardner. They were at one point part of the same order, the Golden Dawn, though Crowley was tossed out when he did quite a few things that pissed the order off. So yeah. Do I think that it can then be useful to study these old Golden Dawn masters? Yeah, I definitely think so. I also think that his system, Telema, which I will get into in a little while, can be very useful for any occult practitioner. However, I don't think that his ideals and his writings necessarily advocate a worldview which are compatible to what, for example, Wiccans and many other pagan groups of today think. Crowley was very much a left-hand path practitioner, and you have to take that into consideration when you read his works. Now, I am a left-hand path practitioner, so I don't have a problem with that. but I do think that for some, especially Wiccans, he would be considered immoral, yes. Now, before I drag this video out too long, especially since my PC has a tendency to crash, Telema. Crowley developed his own magic system, and it is called Telema, or will, as it translates to. Now, this is a complex system, I can't go into all of it here, but basically it involves finding your true will, and then following that, and working with your true will, and following the path of your true will eventually lead you into enlightenment. This is of course extremely simplified, but that's the main gist of it. Now, what's true will? Well, think of it this way. If you want an ice cream, why do you want that ice cream? Do you want it because you are hot and you need to cool off? Perhaps then a cold drink would be better. Do you want it because you feel a bit sad and you want something to piff you up? Then perhaps doing some physical activity would be better. A big part of Telema is figuring out your true will, because not all of your impulses are your true will. Crowley was also a traditional ceremonial magician. He was very much into Egyptian lore, and he was into Eastern mysteries and philosophies, especially yoga, and not the kind of yoga that you have in exercise centers, but the spiritual practice of yoga. And he was very much into tantra and also other forms of sex magic. He had a very diverse occult practice. And yes, I definitely think he deserves more than just a Wikipedia article, basically, if you're going to talk about him. So yes, his works can be hard to understand. I definitely don't think he's the greatest occultist that's ever lived, but I do find his works very interesting and I do recommend them to others. So yeah, that's my video response. Oh, and yeah, your cats are gorgeous. I just want to cuddle them. Have a great day, and blessed be.